Photography plays a big role in your wedding. It captures those magical moments that you're going to want to remember for a lifetime. But how do photographers get those perfect shots on film? Up next, we speak with a photographer and a newlywed couple to find out how they caught their model moments.
Hi, I'm Dennis Lee. I'm a photojournalistic wedding photographer based out of Chicago. I'm here with one of my favorite couples of the year. We're going to look at about 3 or 4 wedding photographs and kind of talk about the stories and the moments behind them. Hopefully give you a little bit of insight on how the photograph was made, but also kind of the mindset and a little bit of the story behind the photograph as well. You know, it's interesting. How do I get the shot? That's a tough question. A lot of people ask that. You know, number one is I think a good photographer should know their equipment. But number 2, I think it's anticipating and kind of playing that story in your mind. You know, it's like watching a movie or watching a first date. You kind of know when the guy's going to reach in and maybe pull a kiss, you know, right? And, you know, you can kind of feel that tension, that buildup of emotion. You know, when 2 people are about to kiss for the first time, you feel that emotion, even if you're just watching it from a distance, but you feel that tension and you feel that buildup of emotion, and it's just so loud, you know, you feel it so strongly, you know it's going to happen. So at that point, I'm putting up my camera, I'm putting myself into the position that if it does happen, I'm in the right position at the right time, and when I click that camera, it's purposeful. So it's not just a lucky shot. You know, I'm kind of playing out the scenario in my head, and I'm thinking, well, if this scenario should happen, where would it be that I would best be served? You know, where should I be to get the best photo? And I kind of move to that position so that if it does happen, I'm there. So then everybody's like, how were you there? Wow, you must have been lucky that you were there in the right place at the right time. Well, there's definitely some luck to it, but I think a lot of it is just kind of anticipation and kind of playing that scenario out in your mind. You know, the first dance is a high-pressure shooting situation because you never know what the light is going to be like. You know, sometimes they're bringing down the lights for the first dance, or they're bringing up, so, you know, so it's an interesting situation. Plus, there's movement, and it's often low light, and there's movement, and that doesn't make for an easy photo situation. You know, but I love this photo because, again, it's, you know, one of my favorite things to show people is kind of private moments that you may never recognize unless they were stopped in time. You know, moments that are very quick, maybe turned the wrong way, facing the wrong way, that the audience never gets to see. And this is one of those moments. You know, we're looking at their first dance photo, and they happen to be facing away from the rest of the crowd. But here, you know, Sue's got her head, you know, right on Sean's chest, and Sean's got his eyes closed, and his cheek is resting on her forehead, and it's just, you know, it's not people dancing, it's people just kind of being together, just totally kind of in this moment. So, you know, my job was just, you know, to recognize that you know, that here was this beautiful moment, kind of frame it, to give it a little bit of context, and hopefully shoot it where it would be a sharp photo. You know, I happened to get lucky where Sean wasn't twirling her. So, and, you know, they were just really kind of in the soft embrace. And again, it's just a beautiful private moment, you know, that none of their guests really got to see, you know. And a lot of these moments happen so fast that, you know, unless they're captured on frame, even video doesn't really do it justice, because, you know, an expression, a look, I mean, those things happen within half seconds, you know. So again, you know, I happened to be lucky, and I was in the right position, recognized something was happening, and I clicked the camera. This first photo that we're looking at is of Sue walking down the aisle at St. Clement's, and it's a pretty long aisle. So there's a little bit of nervousness, and so I was at the back of the church just before she was about to walk down the aisle, kind of shooting those last moments, those last really kind of quiet, private moments. And as she entered the church, I shot her walking into the church from behind, quickly moved down a side aisle and kind of beat her to the punch, because, you know, it's not that easy to walk in high heels, and kind of met her as she was kind of approaching Sean, And as she was coming, I could see that little bit of tension, and I thought something might happen. So during that whole time, I'm just shooting that camera, waiting for something, because I'm thinking it might happen. And right as she's about to reach him, she reaches out her hand, just for Sean to grab her hand. You can see the tension on her face. You can see Sean's clenched lip and that kind of lip quiver going on. And it's just a perfect moment of Sean kind of knowing that it's what's right about to happen, and Sue just kind of when she's nervous, she's like reaching for Sean. So it's a very telling photograph, and it's a very touching moment.
I love that he captured that just half a moment where you can see the emotion all over our faces. I love that in the photograph you can see me, and I'm completely focused on looking at my hand and looking at Sean's hand, and I'm just waiting for him to reach out and grab it. It was a long walk down the aisle, and I did walk down the aisle by myself. So I was just completely focused on waiting for him and getting to the end of the aisle so that I could reach out and grab his hand.
And like most men, I needed some gentle prodding and didn't know that I was supposed to be reaching out my hand, I guess, at that point. Obviously, as like Dennis said, I was a little nervous at that point, and more than glad that Dennis was able to capture that moment forever and ever, because all my friends have been sure to give me a hard time about that quivering lip he speaks of. So, but it was one of the most emotional times in my entire life, and I'm glad that I have it.
All right, the next photo is, I love the private, quiet time after the ceremony ends. That the bride getting ready and that time right after the ceremony ends are probably two of my favorite times of the day. And so what I do is I typically find some place that's got some beautiful light, some place that's comfortable for them, and I just kind of send them off and let them do what they normally do. And as they're talking, as they're interacting, as they're kind of kissing and hugging and holding each other, I step back at that point, and I'm just kind of shooting amazing moments. Because I always tell all my couples what makes a great photograph is not necessarily a great vista or a great view, but it's a little bit of good light, some comfort, and those intimate moments. So we're looking at this photo where Sue, they're embracing and they're sitting next to each other, and Sue just puts her head on Sean's shoulder, looks up at him, and has the most gorgeous smile. And out of focus is Sean kind of looking back, and you can see his smile too. And it's a perfect moment. It's right there, captures kind of her exuberance, her happiness, and none of the nervousness. And it's I think it's a really telling moment for their wedding.
I would agree. This is absolutely my favorite photo, and it really just shows how relaxed we were at that point, and just how happy we were to finally be celebrating after so many months of planning and so much stress and just so much anxiety leading up to the day. And as Dennis said, when we were finally able to naturally interact with each other, it was just such a high, and it was that feeling that everybody describes about having on their wedding day. And I think it really just captures how we were feeling, just so excited and elated and just joyful.
So the next photo we're going to talk about is just of Sue and Sean on the bridge. Again, it's on one of the Chicago bridges, beautiful location, one of my personal favorite places to shoot because it's so typical of Chicago. But more than that, what I love about this photo is, again, it's a real photo. It's not something that we created or faked or kind of posed. My perspective or my perception is that reality is much better than anything that I can kind of fake. I think reality is more romantic. I think it's more funny. It's more touching. So again, I just kind of placed them on the bridge, and I'm way back there, so I can't be, unless I'm doing hand signals, they're not gonna hear what I'm saying. So I just said, hey, just be on the bridge, just kind of turn to me, and then just do what you'd normally do. Just interact, talk, kind of be yourselves. It's another beautiful moment because you're looking at some very graphic lines of the bridge. Kind of the steel, and then here's this really kind of tender moment. So there's a beautiful contrast, I think, between the two.